Good morning. About 4 months ago, I was sitting in this spot, or very close to this spot, and I was discussing the constitutionality of the lockdown orders. The background is that there was Officer Anderson, who was refusing to abide by the governor's orders in some state. I think it was Washington State. And you and I and others in the comment section were having a discussion based on that particular incident, and I was asked over and over again if I thought that the lockdown orders were constitutional. And I did not think, and I do not think, that the lockdown orders are constitutional. I don't think that justifies, my opinion on whether or not they're constitutional does not mean that police officers should refuse to enforce laws because the police officer doesn't think they're constitutional. That's again for the courts to decide. But I thought that the lockdown order was going to be overturned based on Henry Martin. I know I've talked about that case forever. There has to be due process, and I also talked about Endo. They found that the one gal was being held in the concentration camps for the Japanese internment camps. We call them internment camps, but they're concentration camps. They were held in the Japanese internment camps, and Endo was the case that, well, you can't hold her because you can't show that she's not a citizen, so you got to release her. She's entitled to her freedoms. And so basically the internment camps had to evaporate. They had to let everybody go. And so my point was, due process is going to be it. Another cop, a donut eating cop, or a bacon eating cop, I guess technically, blue bacon eating cop, said that my analysis was wrong because he thought it was going to be decided based on Jacobson versus Massachusetts. I explained to him that it was not, and I'm just a first-year family law attorney, and he thought he was the bee's knees because he found an article from a law school professor who thought it was going to be based on Jacobson versus Massachusetts, and he thought that was a very awkward position for me. Well, as luck would have it, we finally have a federal district court ruling about lockdown orders. It came out of Pennsylvania. I don't know what circuit that is. It doesn't really matter. It's just a district court decision. So again, grain of salt, everybody, this could be appealed and probably will be appealed because the state lost, and the state has infinite money to pursue appeals. So it's a link will be in the description. It is County of Burke versus Wolf. And in it, the two things of note in the decision. It also dealt with First Amendment issues. But the two things for my analysis that I want to make very clear is that, number one, the court looked at Jacobson versus Massachusetts, and it specifically rejected Jacobson versus Massachusetts, citing 100 years of constitutional law between Jacobson and now. There are several tests, constitutional tests that apply. You get to pick your rational basis, your intermediate scrutiny, your strict scrutiny test. There's a few others, but those are the three most popular. And those didn't exist back when Jacobson versus Massachusetts was determined. And the court also said, the Constitution applies even if there is a medical emergency. The Constitution still applies. And so it is very much trying to get us away from Jacobson versus Massachusetts. It disregarded Jacobson versus Massachusetts, specifically finding it does not apply. And instead, it went on to find that it was a violation of the due process clause of the 14th Amendment. It was a due process violation. So the two things that I said, it was going to be not Jacobson versus Massachusetts, and it was going to be a due process violation that's gonna end this if anything does, were 100% correct. Yeah, that is a bit awkward, isn't it, Blue Bacon? Thanks for watching. Have a great day.